Sir, we are live.
Thank you. All right, this meeting will come to order. This is the Erda City Council meeting. It is Thursday, July 21st, 2022 at 7 p.m. We're in the Tooele County building in the basement auditorium at 47 South Main Street, Tooele, Utah 84074. We are conducting this meeting online with Google Meet and also broadcasting on YouTube. We will start with the roll call. Scott Gervais, are you here?
I am here.
Craig Smith,
Here.
Jess Bird is here. Here. And Terry Weiger.
Here.
We're all here in attendance tonight. We have John Brems online.
Not yet.
We hope to have John Brems shortly. We also have Jennifer Poole taking minutes for us. Craig, would you mind doing our pledge tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a big meeting tonight. We've got our land use code in front of us, and so we will open up the meeting for public comment. We'll hear from you. If you have something to say, please come up to the state your name and write your name and let us know what you have to say.
Should we limit 3 minutes?
Let's limit to 5 minutes.
Whoa. Thank you. 5 3/4.
Allison Kip, Erda. I was out of town for 2 weeks, so I have not yet had the chance to review the 157 pages that you guys are voting on. I've scanned some of them. The map has errors or omitted information. For instance, Skywalk is listed as a PC zone, and that is still under litigation, so it is not technically a PC zone. It should be changed back to A20. And a lot of the property on the west side of Erda doesn't have zoning designations. So those need to be added to the map. I know that we're not as rural as Rush Valley, but they don't allow anything under 2 acres in Rush Valley. And some of the zoning designations in the ordinance, I don't think need to be in there if we're going to preserve our rural community. Things such as condominiums and multi-use dwellings really has no place whatsoever in our land use ordinances. Also, I noticed that there's, I believe, a 6% allowance being given to developers if they give a leeway or right of way to put a road in. In those cases, I think that should be redefined to say that the property at the end has to be RR1 or RR5 or whatever the designation is, because if you allow them 6%, then it's not going to be RR1 or RR5. For instance, there's properties over on the east side of Erda that are less than what was designated because of the roads that the developers put in. So I think something needs to be put in there stating that even if there is a leeway, the property has to end up being a minimum of the zoning designation and not less than a zoning designation. Thank you.
One second. Hey, John. Can you? I'm sorry, John, you cut out. Okay, does it say that right when you're logging in? Okay, 1 second. Sorry. One's having trouble getting in.
You need to send in the
Can adjourn
cruiser?
to you.
Okay, we're gonna resume public comment. You don't need to be here for that, right?
The day's 47 still.
Call me if you're not in the.
Ain't not PRCA
Want
sanctioned.
me to send it?
Went
Huh?
world champion.
Thanks, John.
Very nice. So sick. The horses falling over. There's 2 fair horses that slipped.
Okay, next.
Hi, Ken Webb from over in Erda. I got the copy of the ordinances on Erda, but I had a question that I couldn't find, and because it happened to me, do we have a rule in there about feedlots?
There
There's
is,
one that's about 20 acres and above, but what about 5 acres and 1 acre and 10 acres? I didn't see that.
I don't think we have, no, I don't think we have feedlots in small acreages.
I don't think so either, but over by where you live, Craig, there's one that's coming very close to where you're at there in that field to the southwest of your house.
I'm very familiar with that, yes.
Is that yours?
Yes.
Okay, I thought all those properties there were 1 acre lots, and I wasn't quite understanding how we could have a feedlot there on 1 acre lots. That's my question and comment.
Probably because of a grandfather. It
It's
was
a,
there before.
it's a 40-acre parcel.
It's a 40 acre parcel? Oh, I thought some of those when Rick Palmer built his house and had that area rezoned, and I haven't checked the zoning, but I thought that that area right there was all turned into 1 acre lots. Okay, thank you.
Anybody online raising their hand?
No, I do not have any raised hands on mine.
See no other public comment. I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we close public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comment is now closed. We need to we need to consider approving meeting minutes from 7:14. Are we prepared to do that tonight?
I believe so. I read through them. I believe they're accurate. Jen does a great job with our minutes. Rarely will you find any kind of an error.
This was the ICE meeting.
The what meeting?
ICE meeting?
Isn't that what we thought it was?
Oh, the ice, oh my
Yeah.
God.
What was it, 58 degrees or something like that?
I don't know what
It was lovely. So I move we approve the minutes from 7:14.
I second.
Moved and seconded that we approve these minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And are there any opposed? Passes, meetings, the minutes are approved. We'll go ahead and proceed to our treasurer report.
Okay, I
John is on now, yes.
only wrote 2 checks this week. However, one of them was for $69,960.67 to Twilla County for the roads from January to June. The total was $103,441, but we got a $34,000 credit because when we got our B&C road funds, they sent them to the county instead of to the city. So then we got credit for that amount. And then 854.54 for the clerk salary for a total of $69,815.21. And we still have $169.02 on the credit cards. I deposited building permits today, total $2,128.93, giving us a total for now of $43,786.39. But we still haven't been billed from Ensign for like a 2-month deal, so that will drastically shrink. And also some of that will go to the state sooner or later too, so it's not as big as it may appear. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. All right, well, without any further ado, we'll move on to our land use code and zoning map. That's number 22-29. I'm going to go ahead and read through this ordinance. This is an ordinance adopting a land use ordinance and zoning map. Whereas the Erda City Council met in regular session on July 21st, 2022 to consider, among other things, an ordinance adopting a land use ordinance and zoning map. And whereas Utah Code annotated section 10-9A-502 provides in part that council shall consider each proposed land use regulation that the Planning Commission recommends. And whereas the Planning Commission has proposed to the council we're going to correct that, say comprehensive land use regulation and zoning map. And whereas Utah Code annotated section 10-9A-502 provides that after providing notice as required by subsection 10-9A-205 (1) and holding a public meeting, the council may adopt or reject the land use regulation proposed by the Planning Commission. And whereas the council caused the required notices to be given, whereas on July 21st, 2022, the council considered adopting the comprehensive, we're going to correct the typo, land use regulation and zoning map. And whereas council finds that it is in the best interest of the residents of Erda to adopt the comprehensive lands use regulation and zoning map attached hereto. Now therefore be it ordained by the council that the council adopt the attached land use regulation and zoning map and the same be filed as required by law. This ordinance assigned ordinance number 22-29 shall take immediate effect as soon as it shall be published or posted as required by law and deposited and recorded in the office of the city's recorder.
I personally haven't seen a final draft of it. I mean, we've seen the working draft, but I haven't seen a copy with all the changes and all the stuff done. So myself, I'm not ready to vote on this tonight without seeing it in its true form.
Not a bad idea.
I'd really like to see it keep moving forward. We talked about the changes. There's going to be changes made to this for years and years and years. And one of the reasons I'd like to keep it moving forward, not only because our commitment to, we've got it down that we already haven't fulfilled, but there's people waiting. We have people waiting in the audience today for us to adopt a land use and zoning so they can move forward with their house. And they've come to a dozen meetings asking us to get this done. I'd like to see it get done.
I want to get it right. I want it to be able to have that final. I mean, we've been talking about it for 2 weeks. I get that. But I'd like to see it on the paper to where we can go by it and say, okay, this is what we said, this is what we do. I haven't got that final.
Yeah.
I don't know that any of us have yet.
Well, John
There's
sent,
changes as of this morning and stuff, so I think one more week ain't gonna hurt. That's just what I'm saying. So,
I know it doesn't hurt me, but I do know it hurts.
Do you feel like
Some
we
people.
might get conflict in what we've discussed and passed and what's actually,
well, we've already had that kind of, because John had says he lost this or did this, and we had to go back and go through our notes and try to come up. So I don't know that we've still smoothed all that out yet. If there hadn't been anything, I can understand that, but where there has been some that we've had to go back over twice, I just soon have a somewhat pure copy to make sure.
Gail, you got anything to say?
I wanna see it done right. Sometimes it doesn't happen fast. So, yeah, I think I'm leaning towards making sure we have everything done. And then voting on it in about a week. But maybe convinced to do it today if
is there a way we can pass this subject to the changes that we have made? Without seeing the document?
That's kind of sloppy. I don't want to do that. We don't even know what we're passing. We haven't seen it.
So I'm with Craig on this one. We're 21 days late on a commitment that we made. I'd like to see us, if not pass it tonight, at least put it up for a vote and try to get it passed. I don't want to force the issue or anything, but we do have these changes. They're in recorded form. They're also in minutes. So if there's any question as to the decisions we've come to last week, we have the official record right there. I trust John will get our changes that we've made according to that record accurate. And so I think we can pass it, or at least contemplate passing that based on that information. So I'd like to proceed, but I mean, we could.
Does John have anything to say?
We could have a motion right now to put it off, and if that passes a vote, then we get to put it off, so.
Does John have anything to say?
John, do you have any comments on that? Well said.
He's staying out of this.
Well, would someone like to make a motion? If not, we'll go ahead and proceed.
The motion,
Being to table this or postpone till next week.
I don't know. I'm stuck in between, I think. I think Terry's got a good point. We need to make sure we know what we're getting.
Let's just do it. I make a motion to table this for 1 week.
second.
Been moved and seconded that we table this ordinance, consideration of this ordinance for 1 week till next Thursday's meeting. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah. So, can we make a motion, or can this motion include, I don't know, the stipulation that we pass it next week based on the final draft being sent to us? That way, we put a deadline on how long we're gonna wait for that paperwork and.
We can vote on a deadline, but we could always, someone could move and make a motion to push that deadline further, so I don't see that helps us.
One point is we've seen a draft, but we never had seen like a final. John has been working on the final, but it hasn't been put out yet. So I'm just saying, let's wait for the final.
Well, it's 'cause
And then
of-
after that happens, then we can do whatever. If it changes after that, at least we'll know that 99.9% of it is the way we want it.
I'll be voting against this motion. And if it was made later, I might be able to consider it, but I think right now we need to be working on it, not tabling it. So the motion's been made, we'll have to deal with it. But I'll be voting against it because I think we need to be working on it tonight.
We're not supposed to be saying how we're gonna vote while we're talking about it.
I probably shouldn't, but I just did.
So if we pass this motion, does that mean we're not working on it tonight? Or does that just mean that we're not
No,
gonna pass
well,
it
that means
tonight?
it'd be
Pass it
tabled.
tonight, we'll pass it
If you table it, it's tabled, you're done. So,
next week. Motion was for 1 week.
I think we could continue working on the ordinances and table passing the actual ordinance, putting it into law.
So we can work on the ordinances, but not pass it tonight.
All right, we've had a motion and a second. We need to take this to a vote.
Make the motion again. Terry, what?
Table it for 1 week. The passing of the ordinance for 1 week.
Yes, please.
Hey, yeah,
We can put that up for a vote, see how it goes.
Terry's got a motion, either he has to withdraw it or we have to vote on it.
Would you like to withdraw your motion until after we do our discussion? Or do you want to table it right now?
we can have the discussion. I'll withdraw.
Okay. All right, well, that being
I'm not
said.
sure what he's talking about, but what we have to talk about.
There have been some emails from Jen and Corey with some suggestions, and so I think
Corey's fault.
All my fault. Just blame me, it makes everything better.
if we've got support from the council to go through these, I'd like to, and then, if there are changes, we suggest those to John and again, make those part of the public record. And again, I don't wanna rule the show, but I do have a list of the suggestions that were made in email. And so maybe before I start on this list, maybe I open it up to the council. Does anybody have anything that they haven't emailed that they would like to discuss? Who's talking?
Mr. Coons?
Sir, that motion was rescinded by Mr. Minor. Okay, all right, does anyone have discussion points that they'd like to talk about before I start on that? Okay. If there are no objections from the council, we will proceed with some suggestions that came from Jen. We'll start in chapter 8, section 6. And this has to do with agricultural protection zones and public nuisances. Section 8.6 is exemptions from public nuisance for agricultural practices in an agricultural protection zone. No public nuisance definition or prohibition shall include any agricultural activity or operation conducted using sound agricultural practices unless that activity or operation bears a direct relationship to public health or safety. And I believe Jen's question about this was it seems to only apply to agricultural protection zones, and we may not have any agricultural protection zones in Erda, or very few if we do. And so I would ask the farmers on our council.
I think
does that
we
need to
do
be
have
adjusted?
ag protection zones.
I'm sorry,
We have quite a few ag protection zones.
do we?
Yeah, we do have some.
Yeah.
Should it be open, should that be open to not just agricultural protection zones, but to say all agricultural zoning?
I don't know. We don't have very much agricultural zoning anymore. But you have that to have an ag protection zone. So, I don't know,
What do you propose, John?
It's probably right.
Take away an agricultural protection zone, just agricultural.
Okay, do we have 3 votes on that?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think so, John, go ahead and make that change. Okay, back to chapter, we're gonna do some skipping around, back to chapter 5. Oh, yeah, sure. Let me know when you're ready.
Jess, I have a question. If you don't mind. Are we not doing that right now?
I need a motion. All right. Chapter 5, section 6. My understanding of this ordinance is, it's all about non-conforming, things in the city. And so if you're operating, if you're basically grandfathered in, if you're operating something that's non-conforming, using a building that is legal but non-conforming, if you abandon it or stop using it for a period of 1 year, you lose your grandfather, you lose your non-conforming ability, legal non-conforming status. And so, state statute. So the question here is, should we make that period longer? I'm sure we can do longer than the state statute, if we chose to. Jen, am I understanding that correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't think of somewhere where that applies.
Let's say I have a home and it's been my residence for 20 years and the city council up and decides to make it commercial. I leave my home and abandon it for 366 days. I'm no longer entitled to the residential use of my property, it's now commercial.
I see.
You should know that.
I'm trying to think of somewhere in Erda that would apply to. We don't have anything
I
that
can't
fits
think
that
of
right
anything
now.
offhand, but it's gonna happen in the future,
Yeah,
guaranteed.
but I could see, maybe down by gravel pits or something like that. I think it ought to be longer than that.
I'd lean to, well, I'd lean to permanent, but I'd take 5 years or 2 years or whatever the council would be
Go with 2.
willing.
I like 2.
Yeah.
John, we got 3 head nods for 2 years. Can we make that happen? I can't see why we couldn't allow something.
You have to be stricter or lenient if you're going against a statute. Because that's where the threats are.
It seems like the time limit is a protection to the citizen, and it seems like if it's a state statute, it'd be a minimum, not a maximum, to me, but I don't know.
You know, the 1 year is very common a conditional use. If you don't use your conditional use for 1 year, you lose it. I know it's all over in statute. In Twill City, it was 1 year. Everywhere I've ever been or heard of, it's 1 year, but I don't know if it.
Yep, we got 3 votes to make it 2, maybe 4 votes. Let me know when you're ready, and we're gonna skip to chapter 7. Came from Matthew Luker of the Planning Commission. When you're ready, John. Yep. Okay, chapter 17. It's page 27. It's chart, table 17.5, 3.9, referring to, and then it's O, little o. Yeah, junkyard walls. So according to this code, junkyard walls have to be made of masonry walls. And if I understand Matthew's point correctly, his argument is, why couldn't it be a lower cost material as long as it's obscuring or private? And so I would take up Matthew's case here. I would suggest that we would allow, say, a steel or sheet metal fence, wood fence.
The same one that only allows license fees per property.
This is commercial use.
No, this is strictly the fence in front of a junkyard. I don't know if it has to be masonry wall, as long as it was 100%,
The
where you
code-
can't see through it.
Yeah, the code specifies that it has to be obscuring and you can't stack cars higher than the wall. So if you want,
Do chain link fence with the slats in it if you want.
if we want to make that possibility, we can do that too.
But maybe not a vinyl fence.
I've never seen a
That's-
10 or 12-foot tall vinyl fence, but I guess it could be done.
One on my side of town.
Of course there is.
I don't know if I'd have a problem with the vinyl fence as long as it had 100% obscuring,
So
where you
maybe,
couldn't see through
I think
it.
that's the main thing is obscuring whatever objects is.
That's the purpose of
so
it.
maybe we remove, John, any bright ideas on how we might remove the material requirement on that? Maintain Yeah. If you build a wall out of straw and it falls down the following day, then you don't have a wall anymore and you're outside of compliance, as far as I'm concerned. So it's gotta be something that,
Sustainable.
well, that's, yeah,
Just remove the word masonry.
By a continuous wall on the street sides.
well, view obscuring gate.
So it's, well, we would have to put some kind of language in there because it has a view obscuring fence on the other sides. But if we just say wall out front, you have to have some language that says what that wall, as language to say what the fences on the sides will be, but you have to have something that says what you can't see through the wall out front. It says a continuous masonry wall on the street, or on the street. That solves mine.
Specifies the wall must be a a minimum of 8 feet, a maximum of 12 feet, and you can't stack anything higher than whatever height you choose to build your wall.
That language, that, I think that solves the problem.
Me too.
Okay, John, we've got that one. All right, I don't, all the remaining ones are all come from Corey Warnick, who is here today, so I'm gonna let him present those unless anybody has any to go in front of them. All yours, Corey.
Thank you, sir. Did a poor job last week at explaining to Scott that I have two hats to wear, so I'll be more eloquent today. That
I thought it was a fine job.
the Planning Commission had one recommendation. These are just things, I have a lot of time invested reading through this several times and things that Corey Warnick has come up with. So it's not a recommendation from the entire commission, but just for me on all of these items. So I appreciate you listening. And this was sent in an email, so it's all public records, but I'm basically just going to go through it. John, I think you're already in chapter 17, right? Oh, there's a speaker right there. I don't have to be loud. All right, let's stay there and start there for your convenience. And table 17-5-3.3 for commercial sales and service. One of the very bottoms, two of the very bottom items are for veterinary. I don't know why those wouldn't just be permitted as opposed to conditional.
What letters?
They're going to be all the way down in number 67 and 68. They're not, most of these are in alphabetical order, but
You ever spend much time in the veterinary clinic?
not a ton, but some.
That's why they're conditional.
Well, 67 and 68, I'm just proposing to the council to change those to permitted use.
'67 is conditional use, that's a full conditional process. 68 is a C1, which is an administrative decision. And 68 is veterinary providing operations are completely enclosed within an air-conditioned and soundproof building. So I hear what Craig is saying, if they're willing to fulfill the requirements of 68, I think permit it all day long. But what does the council think?
I think administrative conditional use is appropriate there because you're still going to have parking issues, people coming in and out, go through those. As far as 67, I'll tell you, the reason I'm not a vet today is because I went and spent some time in vet clinics and listened to dogs and cats, and I couldn't take it.
So this is in a commercial zone, right? Like if it was residential or something like that, I probably would have left it out, but that's why it flagged me this time through the code, because it's in a commercial zone already.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't have a problem with it being a conditional use.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Sorry, Corey.
68 or both, you're talking?
Both.
Okay, so leave those ones, it sounds like. Okay, the next table is 15-5-3.4. Oh, I'm sorry, 17. I read 17 and said 15, I apologize.
5.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct. The next table down, 3.4. There are two items in there that I would like to make just permitted. The first one is item D, which is bed and breakfast inn. There's been a lot of discussion about this. I think that, I don't know why it needs to necessarily be,
All right, can I make one point here, John? We skipped from C to E, we're missing a D. So where it says, the second bed and breakfast inn needs a D in that box. Go ahead, Corey.
anyways, there's been a lot of discussion already amongst you, the council, about bed and breakfast, and it seems like we've hashed it enough and fixed the code enough that that can just be permitted. It doesn't necessarily need to be conditional or even administrative conditional.
Well, we talked about this last week. I think we agreed to leave it
Aren't they?
conditional.
You get a, if you have a permit, don't you have to have a conditional use permit for fire ordinances? So if it's written as a conditional use, I would probably leave it as such.
Seemed like that's what it came down to when we discussed it, was the fire department needs to know what's going on there in the case of an emergency. It's not a hard thing to get, it's just something that's gotta be on a
They're
list
still-
somewhere.
So they're still going through the business license process, and the C1, all this means is that it went in front of an administrator's desk who stamped it or didn't stamp it. Has nothing to do with it. Fire department's gonna be involved,
Didn't we do this last week?
We did.
and we chose to make it permitted.
I thought we left it as
I
conditional.
thought we left it, or we changed it to permit too. Guess we'd have to go look at the minutes, because it might have been conditional use from not allowed.
I'm in favor of leaving it what we did last week.
Whatever it is.
Now you see my point.
I thought we left
Better
this,
point than this?
I thought we left this as a conditional C1, as administrative, where you put the permit into Jake and they send it on to the fire department and get their approval for your, and that's the purpose of it. I thought we talked about this and left it as a conditional administrative condition.
More research.
My vote's to leave it whatever we decided last week. There was so much stuff going through our heads last week. I don't remember what we did.
So if I'm not mistaken, I'm just trying to go from memory, I think last week's discussion was in the residential zone and this is the commercial zone. So it's just making it to reflect what we did last week. I guess we could go back to chapter 15 and see how that was saved by John, and that would probably tell us, but it is a little bit different in a commercial zone than it is in a residential zone.
It is somewhat different there, but I still think it should go through that conditional use process to make sure that The health department has signed off on it, and the sheriff has signed off on it, and the fire department signed off on it. That's the easy way to make it sure it happens. And
So we would have bed and breakfast in a commercial zone?
you could.
You'd have to, because you have to do an inspection because they have to have egresses and ingresses. So you have to have the fire department go and inspect, the bed and breakfast so that it has proper repairs. So
And all these requirements are the same as, or similar to other permitted businesses.
They have to go through the business license
The reason
permit anyways.
we see- So the reason you have the C1 is so that someone can decide whether you have the right to
Well-
run a bed and breakfast or not.
Well, I don't know if I'd go down that road the right, but if we changed it to permitted in residential, then we should change it to permitted here.
I agree.
They should match.
Keep the process the same. Fill all the codes.
If you can do it in a
Just no-
residential
no
permitted, you should
administrative
do it in a
decision.
commercial permitted.
B, yeah.
That, yes.
All right, so
I think we have 5.
5 votes changing to P. Moving on, Corey.
Okay, I'm moving to the next table, John, 17.5. Nobody to slow my mouth or my mind?
Both.
We have hope for one, but not the other.
You can't, you don't get both.
Some of us are going.
You guys are gonna notice a common thread. I'm all about making things easier and more permitted. So in 3.5, there are 3 items that I think should all be permitted.
I had to Google what egg candling was. That is freaking weird.
You ever candled your eggs?
Never-
Corey, what's the table?
17-5-3.5. So this is permitted in 2 zones, and then it's administrative review in one zone. I think that should be, right. Yeah, in the commercial G, so general commercial, it's C1, and in industrial M, it's permitted. I would suggest that if it can be permitted in the first 2, it should be permitted in all 3.
Within 5 minutes.
Which line are you on, Corey?
That's line M.
Little M.
We only gave public comment 5 minutes. What's up with that?
Special invite, Terry.
But you're not here as the planning committee, you're just here as Corey.
Want me to sit down?
If he's not here, then I have to explain all of these.
So you Googled it. What did you learn?
You like put a egg up on a lamp. You watch whatever it is incubate.
Right, you can see through the
Just because
shell.
it's weird doesn't mean it should need conditional administrative.
So it would be fire hazard as well.
Let me tell you what this is. This is Fazio Egg Farms. They're taking their eggs, it's candling cells processing. This is Fazio Egg Farms, and their process would fall under that.
That won't be part of
Not the
it.
chicken part of it, just the egg processing.
Are they in an industrial zone or are they in a commercial zone?
They're in Mansfield, aren't they?
Well, they are currently an A20 zone,
So neither one of the ones that we're talking about.
but yeah.
I don't see why those types of things couldn't be permitted in a
Yeah.
commercial zone.
In a commercial general zone. I could go with it being permitted in a commercial general.
That's 3, John. Yep. Sorry, Jeff. Sorry I let you say that, Jess. I'm just trying to move on because I know that.
That's 3,
that'd be so-
Keep going here.
All right, going down to
Some cues, Corey.
big D, wind under 5.9 kVA. We changed this in the, or you changed it in residential, so I think that should be changed in the commercial as well.
You should.
That's 1.
Yeah, I agree.
Number D should be permitted.
Okay, the next one in this same table is weaving. I have no idea why that needs to be administrative. When it's permitted in 2 zones, make it permitted in all of them.
Which one?
Weaving is very dangerous.
So dangerous.
I vote permitted.
So would this be commercial weaving?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like that. It would be
What a tangled web we weave.
machinery, right?
I hadn't considered that, but
Yeah, this isn't just crocheting a hat. Or,
I'd like to see that. Good day.
me too.
Okay.
2 for permitted. Anybody else? Scott's got a third.
Yes, you did.
do.
Going slow enough for you, John? Going slow enough? Next,
You still gotta leave in 5 minutes?
How are you doing on time, John?
Didn't you say
good. I was worried. Thanks, Terry, for asking. All right, the next table is 3.6, which is basically manufacturing, curing, compounding. There are 5 in that one that I thought we could loosen restrictions on. The first one is musical instruments, which is number 15. Permitted in 2 zones and administrative in 1. Give me another P is what I'm hoping for.
So this is manufacturing of musical instruments.
Yes.
So like a violin school or a violin shop. I agree, should be permitted.
I have a brother-in-law that makes guitars.
you say?
Yeah, I can't see anything about what he does that would be a problem.
Kind of like a wood shop.
Yeah,
That's one of the ones that's on there. That's, you already touched wood. That's going to be the 5th one.
and this is a commercial zone. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2. I get a third. 3.
That's 3, John.
John?
Moving to number 16, the one right below it, novel. Manufacturing novelties.
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know either, but I don't.
You can stop there.
see if they're manufactured, are they novelties?
You want to buy some?
1 for permitted. Anybody else?
I don't even know what it is.
2 for permitted. Any others?
I just because of what we don't know, I'm gonna say I'd rather leave it.
So it's permitted in 2 zones, and the other one is administrative permit. I'm just asking to make it permitted in all 3.
What zones is it permitted in?
Industrial,
Industrial.
this is commercial general.
And what's the permitted one? I mean, the
Industrial
Commercial
distribution or industrial manufacturing is permitted, and commercial general currently is a conditional use.
So we're talking about weaving dolls, making pens.
Are we trying to turn a commercial general zone into an industrial zone?
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like we're trying to turn it into industrial zone, but
It doesn't bother me.
For what it's worth, there are probably 100 Cs on here that I haven't touched. It might seem like that because I'm picking out the ones I like, but that I thought were low-hanging fruit. But there's 100 that I left as conditional or C1 that I'm not bringing
So
in.
you're giving us a break, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm trying to say, don't judge me because of recency bias. is what I'm trying to say.
What are you doing?
I mean, like, you're giving us a break.
I'll give you a third if we can move on.
Craig is losing his patience with you, Corey.
Well, let's just talk about 3 altogether then, if he's losing patience.
All right, we've got 3 on that, John. Novelty.
I'm gonna do the last 3 together so that Craig can move on. Pickles, toys, and what?
22, 20, 22, 43, and 46.
22 what?
43 and 46. It's pickles is 22, toys is 43, and wood is 46.
You won't get me on pickles. That much vinegar is gonna stink. It should not be, there's a reason it's a straight conditional use in an industrial zone.
I'm with Craig on pickles.
Okay.
Can we just make it 46 or 43 and 46?
I lose on pickles, so 43 and 46.
Sorry.
Are you gonna be anti-pickle too?
Yeah.
That's a third,
Okay,
okay.
pickles loses. 43 and 46, toys. Toys are conditional, wood is conditional administrative.
We're talking about. Yeah, we're talking about manufacturing of toys. That's what, so yeah, I can't go with toys or wood. Leave it conditional. I mean, sawmills, yeah, just leave them conditional.
I agree.
I'm not saying they can't do it, I'm just saying they're gonna have to come through planning commission.
That's 3 for leaving it conditional.
Okay, we're leaving those as
Done.
is.
17. Yep, and I'm not even waiting for it because you didn't have to change anything. 3.7D, this is for public and quasi-public uses. I just have a soft place in my heart for churches, and I think churches should be permitted.
Churches are dangerous and they should remain conditional.
They let people think.
I agree.
Yes,
I,
10% of the pen.
Okay. I'm done in 17, John. Going back to, I'm going to go backwards if that's easiest for you to 15. This one should be easy as well because it's churches also. This is back in residential, but it's churches. 15.5, 3.4 table.
Are churches protected in residential zones under federal? Okay. Easy.
5-3. No, 3.4.
15.4.
Thanks, Jess.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, the last item I have, sorry, I'll wait for you, John. I'm going too fast again. Larry tells me that my time is up, so I'm trying to hurry. Chapter 6.
Public comment, only got 5 minutes.
Super public.
I think we might want to give everyone a chance to come up if they want something changed.
No.
I don't think so.
Are you saying Corey is not an expert? At least one of these items is pertinent to
This
right
week.
now.
You know what, let's address that one first. So, and I'll tell you why it's pertinent to right now. We have somebody who has applied with Ensign Engineering to build a dance school on Cimarron Way, right behind Twila Valley Motorsports. And one of the issues that there's several, and there's a lot to work through. It's not just this, but it's parking. And Ensign is supposed to compare it to the parking table, and there's nothing that addresses like a dance school. There's either like a gymnasium slash auditorium slash theater, or there's like a rec gym, like where you go to work out. And the applicant believes that they fall in one category, Ensign Engineering believes they fall in another. And obviously, I think we default to Ensign in that case, but it may help to have some clarification and add an additional line that specifically, and my suggestion is to add a performing arts school. Not the auditorium, not the recital center, but the school itself, to have some type of number in there. My suggestion was 2 spaces per teacher or per owner, director, whatever.
How'd you come up with that number?
Just trying to, I kind of picked a number in between the two, between what Ensign thinks and what the applicant thinks.
Right now, if Ensign has chosen gymnasium, I believe,
Right.
which requires 4 spots per 1,000
Square feet.
Square feet. They're building a 12,000 square foot gym, which would require 48 spots. That's a lot of parking.
I
They
think-
think most of the time they need 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Not even gonna use that
But-
much.
2 per teacher, is that?
I can tell you, I've had daughters in dance school, and 2 per teacher isn't even close. Because a teacher will have 8 students at dance, and that leaves 8 parents picking them up, dropping them off. And that's just one class, and there could be, in a 12,000 square foot building, there could be multiple classes going on simultaneously, so 48 does seem like a high number. But
You think would be a more fair number, 20, 28?
a dozen doesn't sound very high.
Yeah.
And I've got no expertise in this whatsoever, other than I've had a couple daughters in dance.
The applicant's argument, I've spoken to him a couple times this week, is that those people don't come and stay. They drop off and leave.
To his point, typically, most people do drop off and leave, but they also show up 10 minutes early to be there when their kids come out. And there's a logjam, they all have to park there when the class is over.
Well, and at some time, they're gonna have a performance for everybody too, I'm assuming at that
And
school.
at some point,
This applicant has a performances at Stansbury High School, and so this is not for there's a different category for auditorium or theater, but not, this would just be for a school.
I'd say, in all,
Corey's point is, though, it's not really
Realistic.
addressed in this. It's like its own. It's what Ensign did, right?
and to that point, we've gone through 180 pages. We haven't addressed everything. There's things that are gonna come up, and I think there's already a working format in there to address this. And as far as trying to come up with parking spaces without some kind of input from some kind of professional of any kind, I have a hard time saying we should have a code. We should be writing code that says what it is with no actual knowledge of parking requirements among any of us.
Mhm.
I'll go with that.
I could go with that.
Got three.
I think that that would probably take care of all the ones I have for parking if we do that language. We probably don't need to address any of those unless there's something somebody saw specifically.
Thank you, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
They have it at the high school anyway.
Good to know. Good to know.
All right, I think that sums up our points of discussion on the land use code.
So now can I make my motion to table it for the next week?
Yeah, let's have your motion.
I just did.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, which has been seconded, that we table consideration of ordinance number 22-29 until next week.
Can we add to that? Until next week when we receive the final draft.
We can review them, make sure everything's right, and then
We could probably even post it like we did that last one, and then we're good to go.
make sure the public sees it before we vote.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote. Terry Minor,
Yes.
Gail Martin,
Yes.
Jess Bird votes no. Craig Smith.
No.
And Scott Gray.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Consideration of ordinance number 22-29 is tabled until next week when we have our final draft. Roads. Can we talk about Erda Way?
We have roads.
Oh, we're on roads.
Wide enough.
Not wide enough,
Not
too
smooth
bumpy.
enough.
Had a meeting on the Mid-Valley Highway.
Many potholes.
County.
Terry and I requested a meeting with this a week from tomorrow. There's a lot of things at play with this design of the Mid-Valley Highway. And we're trying to watch out for what's going to impact Erda the most. And other entities are trying to watch out for what's going to impact them the most.
They're more concerned with commercial growth than people residential type thing.
Yeah, it feels that way. So, Terry and I are gonna, take some, down-to-earth suggestions and criteria to them to really consider. For example, the one overlay that they had on the overhead, this week, just had the high-pressure petroleum pipeline, which, if you don't know, that is a big, big deal. I mean, it might as well have kryptonite emanating out of it because everybody just stays away from it. Anyway, they had that laid out as though it went all the way up the side of Sheep Lane to Highway 112, and it doesn't. But that was one of the reasons they didn't want to run it up Sheep Lane, was because you get right there by Deseret Peak and you're crossing that pipeline a
So
couple
it's
of
not
times.
there?
No, it turns
It's in the
east
field.
before it gets there.
Oh,
Anyway, and then we're gonna try and bring to their minds, the people that live down on Golden Garden and Palmer Way and I mean, they're gonna have 28,000, they project 28,000 vehicles a day on that road, and it's gonna be right on the other side of the fence from all these people.
It'd be like a West Valley 215 situation.
And
Right.
another thing we found out that's kind of laughable is that the old Langford house, I don't know if some of you know where it's at, just off Sheep Lane and Erda Way.
Yeah.
That's a historical type house. Because it's over, what, 30 years old or something, and it's been there that long, and it's got its original, I know in the past they've used it for firefighting practice, but supposedly it's a historical thing that.
Yeah, but they were being very, very cautious about
Yeah,
any kind of buildings and,
they also come up with the agricultural properties too that are protected. They had them on their map and stuff too. So there's a lot of considerations to go in on this road. Just to kind of let everybody know, I think the plan most are trying to force on is right there on, next to the airport,
right in between the airport and Golden Gardens.
on that Evans Lane. So you have to stop. The reason they kind of bypassed the original one that kind of went out across. The way it is now, you have to stop when you go down Erda Way, and they don't want to.
As in have a stop sign or a light.
Yeah, they just want you to be able to go 70 from once you get off the freeway all the way to the other side of the depot, I guess.
Yeah.
So will it have like off ramps?
Yeah, that'd
Be a highway situation.
runabout, all kind of, but right now, just to kind of back up a little, right now it's in the environmental impact stage. And that's gonna be until, I think, March, the spring is when that year will end and all the public comments is over and stuff. Then they'll get more into the planning stage. Right now, it's just the impact stage.
Yeah, so to put this in a little perspective, Debbie Wynn had a real good perspective. She's younger than me. She said, I doubt this thing can be built in my lifetime.
But
We still don't want it going right behind our neighbors. And I don't think it's a good idea to put it right next to a airport.
Yeah, that sounded like a really hard compromise to me
Yeah,
because of the stupid pipeline. But now that the pipeline's not an issue,
To us, it's not an issue, but you'd still have to cross it possibly in one area.
they have to cross it to go
Right.
past the
You're
airport.
gonna have to cross it at least once, no matter where they put it.
I hate to burst Debbie Wynn's bubble, but I didn't think they'd have the first section done in my lifetime, and it's there. So
Yeah,
who's to say what they'll do?
yeah.
She's been in politics longer than we have.
She has.
I forwarded an email about trucks on Erda Way.
Forwarded it to who?
The
Did you read
Now
it?
that's that gal I told you about.
I hope you read it.
And you said you was gonna, what you did is you called the
Yeah. Yeah, last time
trucking company.
we had an issue up on my end of town, I could see it. I just got a hold of the owner of the
Is that gonna be our policy?
I don't know. It sure settled it in about a minute. He said, I'll be glad to reroute those
Well,
trucks.
whose truck was it this time? Do you know, Terry?
They didn't say.
They're making a route up and down Erda Way, are they? Going,
The big 53-foot trailers full of gravel.
They sent it to Allison and then Allison forwarded it, Art to Jess, and then Jess forwarded it to you and I.
The roads.
okay, well, then, let's find out who it is. And I'll just call
Okay. I like that solution the best.
him. It works better.
stand out front and watch.
And they don't make it up to my end of town, but
But they've turned that corner and come down westbound on Erda Way.
Who does?
Westbound, yeah.
I haven't seen them.
But I also know, and I think it's August or September, the airport's gonna be running a whole bunch of trucks redoing asphalt out there.
They told me it was from Sheep Lane to the airport,
Yeah.
not west, not east of that. And that would be the route I would suggest they take.
And I think there's a provision in there for them to repair. The problem is we've got to figure out a way to assess the real damage.
The problem is it doesn't happen immediately after.
Yeah.
A few months later that you finally
You
see.
see it. All right. Anything else on roads?
Yeah, we kind of talked to the county a little bit about possibly a 3-year, I think is what we finally come down to, but our main concern or our point is that we can't expend more than we're making on our road funds. We can't give that plus, because they were talking like trying to plug something in for inflation and doing this and that and the other and stuff like that. So it was a good first meeting, but it's by no means a final.
But Colin said he would start working on a proposal. So I don't know if he's gonna contact us or if he's gonna contact John.
Then they're worried about liability, like say with the sheriff's department, if somebody comes to one of the charter schools and does something bad, that they'd be forced so much money into that or pouring into that or something, some kind of a liability thing that they'd want some kind of I think they called it extraordinary services or something like that.
It's just a concern that they have.
In and out of area service. Because we're not, but the
What was
thing
that?
I don't know that they
50%?
understand is that if we were still in the county, we would be making less money on the road funds. But now that we're a city, our population gets figured into that funding. So we make more money as a city than we would have as in the county. So they would be getting more money than they would have if we hadn't incorporated. So that's kind of where we're.
So I think right now we're at a point where we see what Colin forwards to us. And then we'll probably meet again and we'll discuss it here. And
Because I asked them where they came up with their figures, because for March and April, we got like 23,000 a month for those 2 months. They credited us for January and February, 17,000 for each one of those. My understanding, that's why I questioned it, was it's just based on the miles and nothing else. Well, that is inaccurate. It's the fuel tax, like how many people are driving, how much gas it is, and how much that. But, so I asked them how they came up with that. And they were gonna go back and see if they could figure out a difference between the February or the January, February compared to March and April, and see if there's an in-between that they could come up with a reasonable change. But
it's a tough calculation based on how much sales there is statewide. And then there's that 34-cent sales tax or road tax on every gallon. So
since we're talking taxes, we stopped and talked to Allison about city taxes and stuff like that. Even though the city of Erda is not raising our taxes, there's a formula that comes from the state legislature that the county has to go by. And so then if you can see in the paper and stuff, the Twilla County's gonna raise their taxes, the school thing's raising their taxes and stuff like that. But the city of Erda is not raising our portion of any taxes. But the taxes will obviously go up because of the property values and stuff like that.
it goes back.
City-wise, we didn't put in for any tax hikes.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to what I told a number of
So what you're
residents.
saying is your taxes are going up, but it's not our fault.
The portion that Erda gets is not going up. The school tax.
Property.
Let's get our feet under us and make that go down.
That's the biggest chunk of it.
The property tax, in some areas, it went up 44% value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Economic development. IT. Office,
Mailbox looks good still.
mailbox still standing.
The kids have run it over yet.
Has anyone?
Haven't
we
got any
received
mail
our-
yet.
I was gonna say, have we received our first letter?
No, I went and
No,
checked the other
no
day.
hate
I haven't
mail?
checked. I didn't even think we got any junk mail Tuesdays or nothing there yet. But then Kale didn't tell him we had one until just recently, so
A week ago.
a week
yeah.
ago then, so
Yeah.
I'll check it again tomorrow. But
Okay.
as of now, we haven't received any. But I'm assuming everybody will be changing, like, if you got a thing with the bank, change it to the city deal instead of your home address.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Anybody else has that, just go ahead and change that to the 2163 West. Erda.
Okay, ordinance number 2228, an ordinance of the Erda City Council establishing and modifying regular meeting schedule. Whereas on July 21st, 2022, the Erda City Council met in regular meetings to consider, among other things, establishing and modifying a regular meeting schedule. And whereas Utah Code Section 52-4-202, paren 2 provides that any public body which holds regular meetings that are scheduled in advance over the course of a year shall give public notice at least once each year of its annual meeting schedule. And whereas Utah Code annotated section 10-3-502 provides that the council body shall by ordinance prescribe the time and place for holding its regular meetings, which shall be held at least once each month, and whereas the council finds it necessary to establish a regular meeting schedule. Now therefore be it ordained that by the council as follows. Beginning August 2022, the council shall hold regular meetings on the second and fourth Thursday of each week, beginning at 7 p.m. in the Tooele County Auditorium located at 47 South Main Street, Tooele, Utah, unless otherwise changed by the council as the need arises. This ordinance shall take effect immediately. Any discussion?
So back up just a little bit. I think you said the second and
And
fourth Thursday, and then what did it say right after that?
Of each
Month.
month.
Yep.
Yeah, it should say month.
Thank
right?
you.
Catch Scott.
And when you say immediately, we need to meet next week.
Starting in August.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
John, I don't know if you're still on with this. We need a correction on, well, we can let Jen make this correction. Each Thursday of each month, beginning at 7 p.m. So we'll go ahead and make that change.
I move we adopt ordinance 22-28 with the modification of changing each week to each month.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Then we
Oh,
got
roll call.
Let's do a roll call vote. Who are we at now? Let's do Scott.
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Jess votes yes. Kale.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Terry. All right, passes unanimously with modification. Council representative reports.
I got nothing.
have heard back from all of the people on the Hazard Mitigation Committee. Following, this makes up the committee. Councilman Scott Drew Bay and myself, Bill Fox, Allison Kitt, Jeff McNeil, and Buck Peck. And the times that they've put looks like to me 7 p.m.s on the evenings except on Wednesdays. And so now Scott and I will be getting with Bucky to set up a meeting to get it started on what we're gonna be.
Good job.
I've said enough.
Okay,
What time did you say that was going to be?
Any night but Wednesday.
that narrows it down. General comments. John, any comments? Chair moves. Okay. Are they pushing PID or our PID ordinance? Policy, that's what I mean. Yeah, let's put the policy on the agenda and talk about it.
Speaking of agenda items that need to go on, planning and zoning recommended a subdivision ordinance. I believe we need to get that on agenda immediately. Like next week if we can.
Are we under notification constraints on that?
I understand the planning commission already did the notification for the public hearing.
So we're good. Is there an ordinance involved?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw that ball in your court to get that ordinance done. Do you think it can be done by next Thursday, John? If not, it'll be the second week in August. Okay.
Suggestion that you could wrap it into the language. You should have been there at the beginning.
Good, but let's leave it stand alone. We should also have an ordinance lifting the moratorium or repealing our temporary ordinance as soon as we have this permanent one in place.
Doesn't the land use code do that?
I don't know if it does or not. Does putting the permanent land use code in replace the temporary ordinance, John, or do we have to do an ordinance to repeal it?
Perfect.
All right,
Next Thursday, right?
Next,
next Thursday. Yes,
I'm here.
let's,
I hope you're here too, Scott. That's really more.
Hope I'm here.
I'm not scheduled to be here.
hey, John, can we do that as a separate ordinance though? Yes.
Why do you want it separate?
More stuff to do. It'll look good. We'll have a big full agenda.
It's not getting big enough.
Do we have a-
Terry's
do we have a
backpack's
second?
been outweighing him for long.
You second?
What am I seconding?
Make the moratorium another thing to do.
Are you thinking just so that it's clearly defined and?
It's clearly defined. We can put the one in. Once it's in, we just do the other one.
It was only intended for 6 months anyway.
I mean, isn't it just a matter of, okay, let's do it?
We're splitting hairs here, gentlemen.
We are.
What's your advice, John?
Okay.
All right,
All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
second.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Being adjourned.
You didn't finish.
So anybody from the public
Speak louder.
get up and
Hey.
What was it?
What?
What? Corey was taking.
Jerry, how are you?
I invited.
Sir.